Well, g'day, I'm Jack and welcome to another Mad Yak's video. In this video I want to show you how I wired up my Eaton E Lockers. My vehicle in question is a 2003 Toyota Hilux SR5 double cab, KZN 165 is the model of my vehicle, and I put a diff lock front and rear, and I went Eaton. And I just wanted to show you guys, not exactly me wiring them because I've already wired them up, but I sort of want to take you through what I've done, and maybe that could help you guys if you feel that the standard switch setup is lacking. Right, now these here are your standard E-locker switches, your front and your rear locker switch. They're red, and the wee light glows red as a bit of a warning to let you know that you've got a locker activated. What I have actually read on the internet, I think I read it in a forum or something, that one of the comments was that unlike the ARB that needs a master switch for the compressor, these ones don't have any safety net, if you like. So if you bumped it on and you don't happen to see the switch, you got it in a position where the steering wheel or something like that's coming between your vision and the switch, then you might have it on and sort of, well, not really know it, but you might know it after a while style of thing. So I've sort of put in a safety switch myself and a few more other little gizmos just to help us along the way, or help me as I'm driving along to know whether I've got accidentally activated it, the lockers, one or both, and also to tell me whether the fuse is blown or not. So I'm going to run you through how I did that. Okay. Right, now the trouble is with these standard switches, they're a very nice switch, but what I've found is they're actually lacking provision for a dash light. And I wanted the little switches to have a little faint glow perhaps when I'm driving at night, just in case I needed to use my lockers at night, you get off the front lawn or something. It's been raining heavy that day, and I just wanted to be able to see where they were. But these switches, as nice as they are, don't have any provision for a dash light. So I went and saw me mate Auto Sparky, and I purchased some Nava front and rear diff lock switches and a master switch. That I purchased them in blue, colour blue, and I got them with the wee dash light on. And the reason I went blue is because a red one can actually show up like a warning light, and it can sort of get confusing if you're driving down at night and you've got the dash light on that's red. You can sort of psychologically think that, hey, maybe I've got an E-locker engaged or some other thing. So I just went blue for the locker switches, but I've got different safety setups there that are in red to let me know that the lockers are engaged. Right, now with the standard E-locker switches that come with the E-locker, it's a pretty basic back end. This one here is your earth or your ground. This one here is from your ignition source, your live, and this one here is the accessory. The reason you'd have an earth here is so that when you switch it on, it'll go through your bulb and to this earth and ground out, so that your red light will glow when you've got the switch on, to let you know that you've activated the locker. Now on the back of these babies, you've got a couple more terminals. These two are both earths. This one down here, however, this is to feed from your dash lights. So that comes through there and out your ground and it will tell you that the dash lights are on with a wee bulb on the front. This here is now your earth for this other side, which is that there's now your ignition, which it always was, and of course that's the accessory, and that completes the circuit and lets the main light glow, which lets you know that you've turned the switch on. A little more involved perhaps, but nothing we can't handle. Right, now what I've had done recently is I've had Auto Sparky F with my machine, F for want of a better word. Now he was working on it all in an unrelated case to the E Lockers, and while he had to have the panel off, and while he had the dash panel out, I just asked him if he could find or locate any other light provisions in the panel that I could use to show that I had my lockers on as well, because I just wanted to be able to tell that they were on. And he reported back there was one there saying RR diff lock, which would make sense. I don't know what the first R is, or maybe the last R, but one of those R's would probably mean rear diff lock, which on this machine a rear diff lock was actually an option at birth, and mine was an LSD, limited slip diff, but an option was your diff lock. So you could have an open diff, an LSD or a diff lock when you purchase the vehicle new. Right, well, when Auto Sparky told me the good news that I had a diff lock light provision in the dash, right, I said, I'll use that. And he said, well, it's a pity we didn't have two, one for the front and one for the rear. And I said, likewise, it is a pity, but he asked me which one I intended to use it for, and I says I intend to use it for both. I simply said to him, I will grab a couple of your diodes and just wire it up and have both the E-lockers wired into it, so that I can tell that whichever E-locker is on, I can tell that there is a locker on. I won't be able to differentiate using that light specifically to tell whether it's the front locker or the rear locker, but it will tell me that there is a locker on. You have to use diodes to do that, to make up a circuit, or you'll flick one of the lockers on, and if you're using this technique it will activate the other locker. So you have to have diodes, and I'll explain diodes to you shortly. The other way I went to overcome and know which locker was on is I stuck some pilot lights on for each individual locker, front and rear. Now these pilot lights, unlike the normal switches which are on the switch side of the relay, I wired the pilot lights onto the load side of the relay and fuse, so that these things will tell me that the actual wire that goes to feed the diff locks is actually getting power, and not just you're just guessing that it's got power. Now the switches, and when you flick them on and activate the switches, the light inside the switch will glow, but that just indicates that you've fed power to the relay. And what it doesn't tell you is whether the relay's operating or whether the fuse is blown or not. You can totally have the switch turned on, and in my case now the blue light in the switch telling you it's on, but the fuse could be blown and there's no power getting to the diff, to the locker itself. In my particular case, I've wired the pilot lights on the load side, as I've said, and it will tell me if the fuse is blown or the relay's not working. It won't tell me that the that the power is actually getting to the diff itself, because a tree root or a branch or the cocky's fence that you've just ran over, heaven forbid, the barbed wire on the top rung might have snagged it and tore it out of the diff. But there is a chance that your copper conductors may have arced together, which would have blown your fuse, and in that case the pilot light will tell you that it's actually not, the fuse is blown, sort of thing. It will tell you the fuse is blown. These pilot lights will not tell you that your diff locker is definitely getting power, but it'll tell you if you're, unlike your switches, it'll tell you, or they will tell me, that that the fuse is not blown, if you get what I mean. If the light's on, the fuse ain't blown. And I'll just show you that now by simply switching it on, as you see here. And now I'll go under the hood and I will relieve the fuse holder of the fuse, which will simulate the fuse blowing, and there we have the light, pilot light, going out, and so I can tell which locker's not getting the juice. Now notice how the blue lights in the switches are still glowing even though the pilot light is out. So it doesn't guarantee, it's not 100% guarantee, but it's a lot better than just having your switch there. Now, as you can see in this particular case, I've installed a master switch. So you have to have this master switch on before your other locker switches will receive their power to activate the locker. You might say that this is for a safety reason, in case you bump it somehow. They're fairly low, in my case they're fairly low on the dash. These were switches that I just put in where they had provisions for switches. I just removed the wee grommets and stuck in the switches accordingly. And yeah, they you could bump them, they're fairly low down, but the master switch should help ensure that you don't bump them on. You may also say, hey, what have you done that for? There's a hell of a lot more work you've got to do now by switching another switch. But hey, if you're going off-roading, you could use it to your advantage by merely having the bottom switches on, the front and rear switches when they're ready to go, and then you can just hit the master switch when you need locks, and it's just one switch you're hitting then. So it depends on which way you look at it. I chose to put it in an extra 23, 24 bucks, whatever. Right, well this here is a diode, and what that does, as you can see the wee silver ring around that end, what that does is it's like a, if you consider electricity to flow like plumbing, the electricity will go through one end and it will come out the other, and it won't allow the electricity to flow back through the way it came. So if you put the power in through the end that doesn't have that wee silver ring, then it'll flow through, and the wee silver ring end will prohibit it from coming back. And that's what you need there, to prevent the power from going through and along through your light, your diff lock light on the dash, and then feeding back through the other pilot light wire to your diff lock wires, and feeding the other diff lock when you turn on one switch. This will prevent that, but you need two of them, and you need to wire them on each of those wires going to the pilot light. You need to draw off them and wire these diodes into it, that heading for your dash light, in order for that to work. Well, I've elected to stick all my relay gear and wires, etc. under the hood of my vehicle. I mean, there's a wee bit of room there, and they go quite tidily there next to the diff breathers, and I just decided to put them there so I didn't have all this problem of trying to find wiring, etc., places for wiring under the dash and cluttering them up, but they seem to fit quite nicely just under the hood. Right, well, this is what it looks like on the back of the panel. As you can see, it's quite a mess, it's quite busy, but we'll try and track a bit of this through. This wire here is your earths. Those are both your earths. This wire on the other side, that blue one, is for your dash lamp. You can just sort of see it in between those two. That's for your dash lamp. This one here is from your ignition, and then on your accessory there, that goes in and comes down to here and feeds these two ignition ones for your front and rear locker, and then of course off here the bottom ones, they go to your relay, and these here are just earths again, and again on the bottom there with this looks like red wire, that's operating your dash panel lights, or coming from your dash panel lights, so that you can see the switches glowing in the dark. And there's your wee pilot lights to show you that the front and rear diff locker is actually getting power, and this is your wee diodes and connector in here. Oh, well, there you are, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I know I've waffled a bit as usual, but I just wanted to summarise quickly, and that is, first of all, I've got a master switch. I put in a master switch just for a bit of safety in case you bump the other two switches down the highway or something. You've got a buffer zone with a master switch, and that master switch can also double if you're going off-road. It can double as a single switch if you've already switched on the front and rear locker switches. The master switch then you can just turn on, and it straight away locks the both front and rear axles. Also, we've got a dash light, also two pilot lights. They're both red, unlike the blue activation switches. The pilot lights are red, and the dash light will let you know that you've got something going on in the form of a locker, but the pilot lights will actually let you know which locker is on, front, rear, or both. Also, the lockers, the pilot lights rather, and the dashboard light are all wired to the load side of the system, so it will tell you if the fuse is blown. If the fuse is blown, they won't go, and that'll be showing that your diff lockers aren't getting power. So if you like the way I've wired it, by all means you can duplicate it. If you've got any questions or comments or questions or answers, just list them in the comments below. And yeah, once again, thanks for watching.